Welcome to Philly Fortune Talks with your host, Jake Penny, where the city's brightest minds share the secrets behind their success. Are you ready to be inspired?
Have you ever wondered how one person can revolutionize mental health care for an entire community? Today, we're diving into the inspiring journey of Dr. Noel Ramirez, who is transforming mental wellness for Asian American communities. Founder of Mango Tree Counseling and Consulting and a senior lecturer at Columbia University, Dr. Ramirez combines expertise, innovation, and a deep commitment to cultural responsiveness. Stay tuned as we uncover his strategies and vision for his inclusive mental health care and that how he makes everyone feel at home. Dr. Ramirez, welcome to Philly Fortune Talks. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thanks, Jake, so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here.
So, Dr. Ramirez, your career in mental health care spans 15 years. Can you share what initially motivated you to pursue this field?
Sure. What actually started most of this in terms of a practice was I was a bartender and a dancer at a gay Asian nightclub, and I got to hear a lot of different stories. And I'm super obsessed with stories, the ways in which we move through life. And one thing led to another, and the career that made the most sense for me was social work, because in social work, you are co-writing part of the stories of others and really just getting to get stories every day. And so that sort of nightclub that is no longer there in New York City was kind of the birthplace of my interest in really being a part of people's lives and hearing people's stories.
That's awesome. So would you say that, kind of inspired you to, found Mango Tree Counseling and Consulting, and like, what was your vision when you first got started compared to it is now, and like the grander vision as well?
Yeah, the origin story of Mango Tree Counseling is quite interesting. I feel like every different professional experience I had in the past 15 years um, connected and formulated my reason for doing it. And so since 2009, when I graduated from Penn's MSW program, I um, I really wanted to make sure that my career was grounded in community. And so every position, every opportunity that I pursued was related to communities that I was
Hmm.
intimately involved with. I was an HIV medical case manager. I worked at a pediatric HIV clinic at St. Chris. I oversaw a gay and bisexual queer men's health outreach project at Philadelphia Fight. I also worked in a methadone clinic, so working in the recovery community. And most recently, I was working in integrated healthcare, expanding medicated assisted treatment in primary care, really addressing stigma around substance use and recovery in primary care. And so all of these careers, all of these opportunities were grounded in communities that I was deeply involved with. A couple of years ago, I was well involved with this group called Philadelphia Asian and Queer, which was and still is a social group here for Philly AAPI queer folks. And in that sort of capacity, I saw a deep need in this particular community, my community. Um, and in 2020, as we moved into telehealth, the pandemic happened, and these record high documented rates of violence of AA and HPI folks were coming through. People were pursuing mental health, and they were coming to my solo practice. And what I learned was, well, I can take them all. And all of my colleagues, all of my AA and HPI clinicians who were in private practice were all booked. And um, I'm not somebody that sits around when there's a systems problem. I want to get involved in addressing it. And so I uncovered some significant issues. One, there's not a lot of us out there who are working in prioritizing AA and HPI experiences, but also that we're not very well represented in the industry. We're about 4% of the mental health care community according to the APA.
Wow.
So we're not there. And the one thing I know about my community is if we don't see us, if we don't see ourselves, we don't go. And
Hmm.
so one of the areas of interest in creating Mango Tree was creating a pipeline and creating mental health care that's centered on the experiences and identity development of A and HPI folks at a time where identity is super important towards mental health. And actually, the actual moment that started Mango Tree's birth was in 20 December of 2020, I was one of the grand prize winners of the Philadelphia Rise Up pitch competition, which I didn't know
Okay.
was a pitch competition. I actually thought it was just a free conference, and so I became a finalist. And so, shout out to Jefferson University, Comcast, and the city of Philadelphia. They funded $10,000 to Mango Tree to really get it started. And so, from the beginning to now, Mango Tree has been a community effort. It's been supported by our local Philadelphia and Pennsylvania community, and I really hope to continue that in our work in the future.
That's amazing. That's awesome that you got the $10,000 to help, get it off the ground when you didn't even realize like that was going to happen. So that's awesome. That's a universe right there working on
Yeah.
your side without a doubt. So you've worked in various settings from public health centers to youth development. Um, what key strategies have helped you effectively serve these diverse communities, do you think?
It's interesting that you mentioned this, and especially as an entrepreneur, what I've come to learn is these skills of community building and entrepreneurship and innovation were critical in all of these ventures. I think a key element, and this is related to entrepreneurship, this is related to public health, this is related to social work, is really getting to the pulse of the felt
Mhm.
need of the communities you want to work with. And the best way to do that is to not only participate in the community, but um, to be in and love and care about the community. So in each of these particular communities that I was entrenched in, definitely had been a part of it in different ways, but also really getting to the heart of the matter. I think successful ventures work when they're important, right? When they're relevant
Yeah.
to your customer base, your client base, and in this case, in these particular communities that both I'm part of and also care for, um, it's about the felt need. And
Mhm.
in order to get to the root of the felt need, there has to be relationships, there has to be conversations, there has to be research, and there has to be a good effort in really getting to the heart of the matter.
Yeah, it all boils down to people first.
Yeah. And relationships.
And
I mean,
yes,
I feel
exactly.
like that was the consistent case of all the different experiences where whether it was someone being having their first HIV diagnosis to somebody who's struggling with recovery or somebody who's uncontrolled diabetes, um, people are just looking to feel understood, seen, and cared for. And so all of these positions really taught me the importance of relationships and connection.
Yeah, that definitely goes a long way. How has your experience in different clinical settings influenced your leadership style at Mango Tree?
Excellent question. This is um I want to try to answer this in a way that is diplomatic. um I know what it's like to be a worker. I know what it's like to be a clinician. Even today in 2024, as the entrepreneur and the director and founder of a beautiful staff of 15 people, like I'm still hustling and working with the clients. Like I have to be in it. One of the things I've learned in all of my experiences is um, best if leaders lead from the front, not the back. And to me, I feel like I've been in different professional experiences where that wasn't the case,
Yep.
where people were maybe detached or really um, in it for different reasons. And I really feel proud of the culture that we've created in Mango Tree. We are not only patient centered, but we're provider centered. We want to make sure that our providers experience feeling prioritized, not only for their cultural and identity knowledge, but their professional talents. We really believe in dignity and worth of everyone, including the servers and the sort of the service providers, as well as the patients. And so, yeah, and even the way in which we've created our leadership team, we have a patient experience lead and a provider experience lead. And so one of the sort of pieces of my experience that I've learned in some experiences is when people feel loved, honored, and respected, they're going to do the best work. And so, yeah, best to lead in the front, to be a part of it, and also to cultivate the talent of the folks that are um, in your community, in your team.
Yeah, I'm totally with that. At the end of the day, culture matters in the home and in the workplace as well. And you have to build a culture around your people, right? Your employees and everything, and an awesome environment and leading by the front is always the way to do it. Um, because you're the example, right? You're the leader, you're the one that they see the mission, the purpose that they're on, right? They're on it with you. Where a lot of other people, they'll lead from the back and they'll just
If
push,
that,
push, push,
if
push.
that, if at the
Yeah.
back, sometimes they're not even in the battlefield.
Right. Yeah. And then the employees that you have, the people that you work with and work alongside with don't feel purposeful, don't feel missionful. So it's like they're not fulfilled.
Yeah,
So it's the best way possible is to lead by the front and build a culture around everything that you do.
yeah, absolutely. And to be, if you're gonna, again, this is something I've learned in some places that I've worked at. Like, if you're gonna be it, then do it. There's so much talk out
Yeah.
there, and I
Right.
think it's just like, here I am creating this group practice about community mobilization, healing, and cultivating resilience in our A and NHPI community. That includes the staff, you know what I mean? And so, like, that includes the community of providers. And so, I'm all about alignment and making sure that our true north is aligned. And yeah, there's a culture problem, I think, with workplace in general. Like,
Hmm.
that's something that
Absolutely.
we have confronted as mental health providers with our consumers, but also, our own past experiences working in mental health. Surprise, mental health organizations maybe in this area and alone, they also have their own issues around workplace toxicity and culture. And so this has been, for me, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, but mostly as a person who's worked, such a like a curative experience of curating a workplace that seeks to truly honor and respect the talent that's there
Yeah.
after
Yeah.
years of being disrespected and dishonored and not loved and cared for.
Yeah, my buddy Jay Duran, who's a Philly native, host of the Culture Matter podcast, Culture Matter like consulting. His mission is bringing culture to big corporations. So he all his consultants, um,
It's a big
you know,
order.
yeah, he does it with big organizations now. But because if you don't have a culture in your within your business, it's an ugly place to be in.
Oh yeah.
Truly, truly, everybody's miserable. Nobody's hitting, the 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 expectations or the levels that they could be performing at because, like I said, they don't have purpose. They don't see the mission, and you're not being a good role model at the end of the day. So, power to you, man. That's amazing. So this is always a good one. I like answering this because it's kind of interesting. Balancing your personal commitments and personal life can be challenging. What daily habits, or routines do you have to stay focused and effective? And the reason I said interesting is because the word balance, um, it's thrown around in the entrepreneurial world as like, oh, we balance life and our profession. I don't know if that's 100% true. I've always seen it as integration. Let me know what you think. I'm curious.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of what you're describing. Actually, this is a shout out to a local person, Sarah Bressi from Bryn Mawr College, a professor at Bryn Mawr College, who writes this beautiful article on reconceptualizing self-care. And she poses this very argument around balance is this idea of maintaining sort of the pressure of cognitive dissonance, my work life and my personal life. And in her article, she really challenges the idea of many of us, especially entrepreneurs, especially business owners, especially folks who are leaders, we're not like a 9 to 5 mindset. Like, we are truly creating, there is no work and personal, like it is informed by one another, you know what I mean? And so she really, again, her sort of framework of self-care is this idea of, as you're describing, integration. How do we develop behaviors where we look at not my two different selves, but a full self, and how to, like, for instance, for me, it's what I've been doing a lot of now recently has been movement, like really building a stronger body. And what that means, not because it's the summer, but because it's like my body holds a lot of stories and pain of other folks. So I want to create a vessel that's strong enough to sort of be present, right? I want to, in order for me to coach people on intimacy and love and respect, I need to be in those spaces too with the people in my life. And so, there are things like my brain just doesn't work really well at 10, so that might not be a good time to do payroll. Like, so I know, like, in terms of balance, like knowing my neurological capacity, but in terms of how do I maintain um mental capacity for this work, I think of a couple of things. One is I think to my every day, I think, like, what is my true north? Um, and how do I align this day with my true north? And I
Love
have a
that.
couple of things written down in front of me that remind me of that. But this is from the world of acceptance and commitment therapy, is how do we find alignment? And so like I have to visually and sit, like I have to take some time to think, like, what is my true north for today? How do I honor and respect that? Sometimes it doesn't happen as well as I want it to be, but at least I have this like vision for the day. And
Right.
then of course, like wellness, like really incorporating movement and breaks to sort of nourish my mind and my body. And of course, finally, to be in community. This work, entrepreneurship, psychotherapy, clinical social work, even teaching is not a work in the island. Like, you have to sort of be connected to different communities to make sure that you're feeling grounded.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, your body is a machine. Sad to say, you do need to treat it like a machine
Mhm.
sometimes to be able to have peak performance.
Yeah,
And, that is usually a morning ritual, as I like to say. You know, I make sure I get up at a certain time, get the things in that are for me, so that way I can better serve others throughout the day.
yeah.
And that's super important. And like you said, moving. You gotta move.
It's really just even great for your brain. Blood flow to the brain helps the brain work better. And so there's a neurological, like, precedent for it.
For sure, for sure. What upcoming trends or opportunities in mental health care are you most excited about? And how are you preparing for them?
Yeah, there's a lot of different trends out there. Definitely telehealth has been significant, you know what I mean, in terms of creating more access, creating more opportunities. This is kind of like very specific to the industry, but like there are more and more conversations and legislation moving towards pact, like what a pact for licensure. So in the past, it's been such an interesting way of practicing where, like, we're all bound by the state that we're in. So,
Mm,
in a place like Philly where Camden is closer to Philly than Pittsburgh. Technically, I wouldn't be able to see someone in Camden because of state licensure. And so there's a lot
wow.
more conversations around, just creating more access and opportunities. I think AI, I'm very curious to see how AI can help create and enhance mental health in terms of, yeah, I don't know if it's ever going to replace a therapist, but certainly when it comes to creating more mental health tools outside of sessions or in different ways, I think that's going to open up some really interesting opportunities for folks for mental wellness. And most importantly, one of the things that I think is critical is the messages that our national health leadership is saying. Loneliness, finally there's language to talk about a national health priority: loneliness and connection. I mean, that was the Surgeon General. And I'm just so glad that our leadership in health and also our leadership politically is having more conversations about mental wellness in all different ways.
Yeah, I mean it's the real deal. It's the real thing. Like you said, loneliness that leads to a lot of issues. I mean, look at the elders, the elder generation, everything like that.
Huge.
They start to have onsets of crazy illnesses because of loneliness. their body stops fighting because they're lonely. And I've seen it firsthand within my family, um, through COVID,
Yeah,
that distance and not being able to get out and talk to people or move. Certain individuals, that lived alone, deteriorated very, very quickly and eventually, in the later years went off to pass. And
yep.
that's loneliness is a real deal.
And
Um,
even younger people with tech
oh,
addiction and
oh yeah,
inability to co-regulate with one another, we see a lot of folks that are just, I mean, struggling with loneliness in at a very young age, where those are peak times of a lot of social integration and
right.
whatnot. And we see people really stuck in their phones. And uh, there's a
Yeah,
lot of language around tech addiction now in the mental health community,
that's for
and
sure,
it's
without
like
a doubt.
significant. So
The dopamine, how quick they get dopamine is,
yeah,
from their technology is now the way they're, viewing life. And having normal conversation doesn't spark that dopamine anymore. So they don't really have any real true interest in it. They do, but they don't know how. And then if
yeah,
they don't know how, when they try, they don't get that instant dopamine release to let them move forward and keep trying.
yeah.
So they revert back to, being quiet and being amongst themselves. So that's a real, I would say that's a new epidemic for sure.
Significant. It's something that we're seeing across the board. I mean, even just misinformation in social media around mental health. Um, the gun violence associated with social media apparently is a huge trend in this
Wow.
particular region. And also just contempt. There's a lot, it's a culture of contempt out there. And as you're describing, the dopamine flooding and also dopamine like sort of deprivation,
Yeah.
having no frustration tolerance towards social stress because folks are used to just tuning out with their phones.
Tuning out. Yep.
It's hard. It's a really, well, I think we're in a really interesting time with mental health. I think we're needed very mental health providers. We are needed. So we need to keep on working.
Absolutely. So as an entrepreneur, right, you know, you have to keep the lights on, right? That's the biggest thing as an entrepreneur, keeping the lights on so you can keep serving your ideal, client avatar and making a difference. So how do you approach like financial planning to ensure stability and growth?
Well, these are great questions. So I do want to give a shout out to the Small Business Development Corporation of Widener University, the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and Asian American Chamber of Commerce, and really the Diverse Chamber of Commerce for doing the Streetwise MBA. I've been really um, fortunate to take advantage of some of the opportunities that are out there locally to help really develop my sort of business knowledge around exactly what you're describing, sustainability. Again, for those who are interested in entrepreneurship, or if you are a fellow entrepreneur and haven't accessed these resources, please do. They are wonderful, and I've been able to really get a lot out of it. The SBDC really taught me this really important um, business canvas of really what I like to do is twice a week I have an executive directors meeting with myself, and there's four areas of um, focus in these meetings, and that's innovation, operations, finances, and marketing. And I just have a sort of hour-long meeting with myself, coffee, Hulu playing in the background,
Hmm.
another episode of Law and Order SVU while I'm doing this. But it gives me, as a director and as a leader, at least 2 hours a week to plan and to sort of identify the QA issues that are coming up, and also really looking at our growth plan. And that was a big part of the Streetwise MBA program. Again, thank you, Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and also the Diverse Chamber of Commerce, but creating a growth plan and really giving yourself the time to vision. That was something that the Streetwise MBA program provided me. Founders First, another wonderful resource, was really investing time in looking at sustainability and creating a plan of sustainability. So we've been pretty fortunate at Mango Tree, myself specifically, to be able to network with these professionals and create a sustainability plan where I know that we have a significant savings. We've had to tap into that because of national healthcare crises. I won't mention it, but you know who you are. change healthcare. And so there, I mean, like I didn't know that they were going to be hacked, like, and so there was lots of different, we have to prepare for risk exposures and having, our savings, having uh, trusted advisors, and also having a
Mhm.
team where we're really thinking about um, growth plans and emergency plans. The one thing with anxiety self-management, and this is like both a clinical thing and also like a leadership thing, is there's a tendency to have a stressor, think about like a plan, and then go back to the stressor and plan B, plan C. It's called the rumination cycle. And what I've learned in both anxiety self-management as well as just the reality of being a business owner is you have to have a plan for the stressor, but you got to let it go. Like until that plan gets initiated, going to plan B, C, D, E, or F is insanity. So, developing my plans and expansion plans, risk plans, and having my support and giving myself the time to really vision for the future have been tools to stay afloat, stay profitable, and stay fiscally healthy.
Yeah, planning is definitely key. That's for sure. And like, I mean, some people plan like, oh, 10 years. I'll have a plan for a 10-year plan. It's like, well, you really don't even know where you're going to be in a year. So it's like,
COVID. Did anyone know what was going to happen with COVID? I mean,
yeah, yeah,
like a
it's
nice 3 year to 3 to 5 year, three to
right,
five
right.
years is
I
nice.
mean, you can have like, hey, this is an ultimate goal, but understand like things change. You don't, nobody has a crystal ball.
Yeah,
And people overestimate, what they can achieve in, you know, X amount of years, and they underestimate what they can achieve in a year.
yeah.
So, what long-term goals do you have for Mango Tree, and how do you plan to achieve them?
Excellent question. We are looking to expand to other regions. Right now we're in Pennsylvania. Some of us have licenses in New Jersey. And truly cultivating more of a sort of regional component. One of the things that it's really deep in our community is being hyper local, and so we really want to maintain a hyper local status while also maintaining a sort of regional experience. We are looking to expand our supervision model around an HPI identity development and mental health. So that's been something that we've been really working on and developing and launching in the fall to invite other NHPI providers who are interested in group supervision. And we're also, as we continue throughout, and this has really been um, a significant long-term goal since the birth of um, Mango Tree Counseling and Consulting, but is really to create a model to explore and help people in the diaspora, Asian diaspora, um, really like nail down the particular topics and in many ways kind of revitalize the mental health canon to include the experiences of AA and HPI's identities. And what that looks like is, acculturation stress, addressing indebtedness, finding the integration points and the points of departure with Western and non-Western cultural identity.
Mm.
What's it like to live in a family that's trauma impacted within the past generation? Um, supporting our brothers and sisters who are transracial adoptees and exploring what it means to be in an Asian body in communities that are mostly white and having white family members, and so or non-Asian family members to be more specific. But yeah, we're really trying to really understand and cultivate tools for the Asian American psyche. And I think that's been something that has not been prioritized in the past, but it's something that we as a practice, as an institute, are looking to cultivate.
That's awesome. Well, Dr. Ramirez, you're doing amazing things at Mango Tree Consulting. For listeners who want to connect with you and learn more about your work, what's the best place for them to go? And, if someone needs help in the Asian community, where do they go to reach out to you?
Yeah, you can check out our website at mangotreecc.com. We're also on Instagram at mangotree.counseling. And you can also check us out on our link tree where you can set up a consultation, and we'll schedule a 30-minute free consultation to check out what your needs are and hopefully provide you with some support.
Awesome. Well, it was a pleasure having you.
Thank you so much for having me. It was my pleasure too.
Thanks for tuning in to Philly Fortune Talks with Jake Penny. Inspired to share your success story? Visit phillyfortunetalks.com/guest and let's inspire together.